A Pictorial History of America, embracing both the northern and southern portions. This is by S.G. Goodrich again in 1844.
And this is the Temple of Tolomeco. The Temple of Tolomeco. Take a look at this. All right, check it out. Look at the entrance with all these statues. And look at the so-called Indians, right? So again, this is the Temple of Tolomeco. I want to go ahead and just read something from another book regarding this Temple of Tolomeco so you can know about it. So we're in this book, The History of Hernando De Soto and Florida, or record of the events of the 60 years from 1512 to 1568. All right. So remember, Florida was vast and big. It covered a lot of states back in those times. They considered Florida most of the southeast. All right. Now remember, we're going to talk about this temple right here. All right. They're drawn in this other book, Pictorial History of the United States. All right. The Temple of Tolomeco. All right. You see these statues? All right. So it says here on page 362 of the Hernando De Soto book, it says both sides of the road from the camp to this town were covered with trees, of which a part bore fruit, and it seemed as though they promenaded through an orchard. All right, so there were so many fruits as they were walking in the forest on the way to Tolomeco. Tolomeco is a beautiful town, quite noted, as it was the residence of the caciques. All right, the residence of the chiefs, or katzin. Katzin in Hebrew means chief. Katzin, cacique. So it's a description of the temple of Tolomeco. Upon the roof of this temple are many shells of different sizes, of diverse fishes ranged in very good order, but they could not comprehend whence they could have brought them, these people being so far from the sea, unless they had taken them in the rivers and streams, which water the province. All these shells are placed with the insides out, to give more brilliancy, putting always the great spiral seashell between two small shells, with the interval from one piece to the other filled with many strings of pearls, of diverse sizes, in the form of festons, from the shell to the other. These festons of pearls, which extend from the top of the roof to the bottom, joined to the vivid brightness of the mother of pearl, and the shells produce a very beautiful effect when the sun shines upon them. The temple had doors proportioned to its grandeur. There were seen at the entrance 12 statues of giants. All right, that's the image we just saw, made of wood. They are represented with an aspect of so ferocious and menacing that the Spanish stopped a long time to consider these figures, worthy of admiration of ancient Rome. 12 tribes? They say that these giants were placed there to defend the entrance of the door, for they are in a row on each side and gradually diminish in size. The first are 8 feet high, and the others proportionally a little less, in the order of the tubes of an organ. The height of the walls of the temple within is adorned conformable to the exterior of the roof, for there is a kind of cornice made of the great spiral seashell placed in very good order, and between these are seen festons of pearls which hang from the roof. In the intervals of the shells and pearls there is seen in the arches of a quantity of plumes of diverse colors, feathers, tied to the roof, feathers on the roof with pearls, and very well arranged. Besides this order which reigns above the cornice, many plumes and strings of pearls hang from all other parts of the roof. Many pearls and feathers hang from the roof, retained by imperceptible threads tied above and below, so that it seems as though these works might be ready to fall. I mean, it continues on and on, but I just want to read this part, and you can just pause it and read this part up here. They're talking about some chests that they find in the middle of the temple, and it said, all these chests are filled with pearls in such a manner that the largest contain the largest pearls, and thus in succession to the smallest, which are full of seed pearls only. Besides, the quantity of pearls was such that the Spaniards avowed that even if there had been more than 900 men and 300 horses, they altogether could not have carried off at one time all the pearls of this temple. We ought not, however, to be too much astonished at this, if we consider that the Indians of the province conveyed into these chests during many ages all the pearls which they found, without retaining a single one of them, and hence we can judge by comparison that if all the gold and silver which they have brought from Peru to Spain had not been transported elsewhere, the Spaniards would now be able to cover with gold and silver many churches. So it says, such as the description of the temple and magazine of Tolomeco, which the Spaniards who had been in Peru and in other parts of America admired as the wonder of the New World, as the wonder of the New World in North America. Afterwards, they asked the Indians what had led them to amass so much wealth, and they replied that all the chiefs of the country, and principally those of their province, made their grandeur to consist in the magnificence of their temples. All right, so sacred and holy temples, right? Our people contented themselves with this reply, and immediately the controllers of the emperor, who attended the army to receive the fifth of all the wealth it should find, deliberated upon taking the claims of their master. But Soto told them that they ought not to burden themselves with anything, that they were sufficiently encumbered with the arms and provisions which they carried, that after the conquest of Florida, they would divide it, and that he to whom should fall the province of Cofasiqui should pay the fifth of the treasure which should be found in the temple of Tolomeco. Everybody approved this sentiment, and they retraced their route to the quarters. All right, so just wanted to go ahead and let you know about the temple of Tolomeco. All right, because all right, so you can take a look again. Let me just back up again. All right, temple of Tolomeco. You see the statues, 12. All right, you see what the Indians look like. All right, temple of Tolomeco.
Temple of Tolomeco. All right, so this is another version of this book, another edition, as you can see. Pictorial History of America, embracing both the northern and southern portions of the New World, from 1848. All right, and we're just going to read a little bit here on Tolomeco. This is in chapter 34 of this book. It says here, the disappointment of the Spaniards in their search for gold. Temples of pearls, temples of pearls. All right. And a lot of other things. Discovery Mobile. You know, this is a great book. We're going to get into all these books in future videos, like specific stories, right? We're going to get into specific stories here. And again, this is the Temple of Tolomeco drawing that we've seen, you know, the 12 statues. You can see copper-colored Indians. All right. Meantime, anxious inquiries were made about the productions of this country. You know, they wanted gold. They were like, oh, man, they're not making the money. The princess answered that they were abundant and specimens were quickly produced. This is the princess of the local people, right? The indigenous people. That instant dispelled all the brilliant dreams under the influence of which the Spaniards had undertaken this long and hazardous expedition. They were looking for gold. The yellow metal proved to be brass or copper. The white metal was nothing but a stone like quartz, which crumbled in the hand. Under this mortifying disappointment, their only consolation was found in pearls, which were found here in abundance. All right, in abundance, pearls in abundance. Now remember, they're in Florida. They're not in Margarita in South America. Now we're in a different part of America, and there's another place in America, so-called Florida, right? Somewhere in the southeast U.S., where pearls are very abundant. Though they could not form any judgment as to their value. The princess told them they might take as many as they pleased out of a large temple. Like, hey, you want pearls? We got so much of that. Just take whatever you want. We have a whole temple full of pearls, which seemed also to be the cemetery of her ancestors, and which was lavishly adorned with them. All right, the cemeteries, everything had pearls. Everything had pearls. This fact, which is positively asserted in the Spanish narratives, all right, remember Hernando De Sotos, we just read, cannot but appear very singular when contrasted with the reverence for ancestry which usually distinguishes nations in this stage of society. This and another temple were found in reality to contain pearls sufficient to have loaded the whole army. There were so many pearls they could have made everybody in the army. Like there was like 600 of them, right? The Soto had 600 soldiers. It could have been so many pearls for enough for all of them. But remember, they couldn't carry the weight. We just read that they couldn't even carry the weight. They left it. So an abundance which of itself afforded a pretty strong presumption that they were of a small value. The other temple was that of Tolomeco, all right? Tolomeco, the most spacious edifice in Florida. the biggest and most spacious edifice in Florida. It was 100 paces long by 40 broad, the roof formed by 6 mats placed over each other and brilliantly adorned with shells and pearls. The gate was ornamented with 12 statues of giants in full armor, and all round the interior of the walls were ranged statues of men and women of ordinary size. There were statues everywhere, the men completely armed. Right? Doesn't that sound like those Roman temples, or even Egyptian temples? The intendants of the Spanish monarchs were proceeding to levy his fifth upon the pearls and other precious articles found in the temple, a measure which was stopped by Soto on the pretense that they could not encumber themselves with such a burden, but doubtless from a well-grounded fear of provoking the hostility of the natives. You see, he's like, yo, we can't really carry that stuff, guys. But he really was just scared. He's like, you know what? I don't think they're going to like if we take all their pearls. All right, so real quick, wanted to come to this book now. I know a lot of you know this book right here, right? You guys seen this cover right here? You see the American indigenous woman being carried here. See the American Indians. Yeah, this is the famous book that a lot of people credit, John Ogilvy, which he did do, but he actually translated it from the original Dutch or German, which was written by Arnoldus Montanus. All right. Now I want to show you guys, in reality, this is the name of it. The Nieuwe Onbekend Wereld of Bekrintrind van Amerika. That's actually, the original. Look, 1671, and it was in a different language and everything. So John Ogilvy just basically translated it. And so we assume, but this is some of the images again. In this book right here, as you can see, a lot of crazy things going on here. Copper colored as always, just like we saw in my previous video. You know how they depict the American indigenous people always of a dark complexion. All right, so this is another part of the book. We got a lot of crazy drawings in here. So this what appears to be a giant, honestly, a giant people like, hey, And, we just talked about 12 giant statues, right, in front of the temple of Tolomeco. All right. So real quick, I just wanted to go ahead and show you, about this book. Go ahead and Google it. America being the latest and most accurate description of the New World. You'll see the images, or just put John Ogilvy drawings on Google. You'll see a lot of the different images for yourself. So I'm on page 216 of this book, chapter 3, it says here. And I'm going to see if we can try to figure out what this temple of Tolomeco is. You guys might know better. Hearing, how they describe the place and the words they use in here, you might know it sounds familiar to you, and you might be able to picture where it was. So let's read it, what it says here in this book from the 1600s. It says here, after this miserable adventure, the business of Florida lay dead for 11 years, till Hernando De Sotos, chosen governor of Cuba, obtained so much of the emperor's Charles V. Again, who is Charles V? Charles V. Remember, Charles V is so-called black man. Charles V. All right, Holy Roman Emperor. So it says that he received so much. He was like his chosen guy, right? This guy, Hernando De Sotos. Charles V chose him that he ventured one expedition more for Florida. Besides seamen, he carried 500 foot and 350 horse, which were, so 500 on foot, 500 men, and 50 horses, which landed in the Bay del Espiritu Santo. He marched against the cacique Vitacucho. All right, so he warred against one of the chiefs, Vitacucho, whom he took prisoner with 1,000 of the natives. 1,000 of them, you see, who they were enslaving the Spanish. It wasn't Africans. There's a real history here. Whom he either put to the sword or caused them to be torn in pieces by dogs. You see the cruelty? And staying all the winter in Appalachia, all right? Appalachia fortified that place and furnished himself with provisions. He was informed that 13 days' journey from thence lay the kingdom of Kofachiki, or Kosachiki, or Kuzachiki, right? Kuza or Kofachiki, abounding with gold, silver, and pearls. Abounding with what? Gold, silver, and pearls. So much wealth in America, right? Where do you think natural resources really come out of? More. We got a future video I'm going to do on gold. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to show you how gold was so abundant here in the Americas and why the Spanish wanted so much of it, right? Which made every one of the Spaniards very the serious to go thither or go there. They heard about the gold, silver, and pearls. They're like, oh, where we can't wait. The X marks the spot, right? Treasure, right? Notwithstanding, the way was very dangerous, for the valiant Floridians lying in the ambuscade in the cornfields. All right, you gotta be careful because the Floridians were in the cut in their little cornfields, right in the cornfields, East corn. Who had corn first? The start of agriculture was because of corn. Check out my corn videos, 4 parts. Wounded and killed many of them by shooting from thence. All right, so the Indians were kind of killing some of them. Soto, so soon as March approached, set forward on his way. In the poor province of Achalaki, he found a few young people, and the old, most of them blind. From Kosa Chiki or Kofa Chiki or Kuza Chiki, he was followed by 4,000 natives who carried the Spaniard luggage, 4,000, and served them as guides through woods and wilderness. There was 4,000 of them helping these cryptos. Remember, these are so-called black people too. These Spaniards, these are cryptos, most of them, crypto Jews or crypto Muslims. All right. The 7th day, they stopped at Great River. Whither Sotos sent 4 companies to seek out a passage over. The Great River, I wonder if that's the Mississippi. After 7 days, right? They walked for 7 days, so they went far wherever they landed, and they went far 7 days, and they got to the Great River. Remember that Great River, Mississippi means Great River in the Ojibwe Chippewa language, Great River. Also, the Nile, right? Nile is the Greek word, which also means Great River. So which was the real Great River? Whither Sotos sent 4 companies to seek out a passage over, whereof the 3 returned without any effect, but the 4th, commanded by Captain Anasio, and a colonel of 1,000 Kuza Chikians, Kuza or Kufa Chikians, came to a village. All right, 8,000 of them, right? They're aiding. A lot of them got allies, right? Different tribes allying with these different Spaniards. All right, came to a village built along the river, in which they made a miserable rout, killing all they lighted on, and hanging the skulls of the dead by their sides. You see this? What's going on? This done, they marched back. Sotos, at last, espying a village on the other side of the river, beckoned to the natives to come over to him, whereupon 6 came immediately, who, understanding that he desired their friendly assistance and trade, promised to acquaint their governess, being a young maiden, who soon after came over to Sotos and presented him with a string of pearls. What? They gave him what? A string of pearls, right? Where we learn about today, pearls, right? The abundance of pearls. Who's giving them this? An Indian. They're the experts. They're the pearl divers. He complained to her for provisions which she promised in part of store him with. All right, so they were talking about the princess. They were expecting gold and everything, and she brought him pearls. Crossing the river, he found a brave country where were pearls as big as gray peas, copper, or golden color, but no gold. They were pearls so big, so many pearls here, right? Out of the tombs of their princess, the Spanish officers, with the leave of the forementioned maid, their governess, got an incredible treasure in pearls. They were just taking the tombs, right? Robbing the tombs. These cryptos, Spaniard Jews and Muslims, Spaniards, these Morisco, Marrano people. These were the original Spaniards that came. Yeah, they were taking all the treasures in the tombs, all the pearls. Remember the chest full of pearls. In the village Tolomeco, they did the like, just like in Tolomeco. Remember Tolomeco? But here, their provisions growing scarce, the army was divided into 2 bodies. Baltasar de Gallegos, all right, Baltasar the Gallegos leading one, and Sotos the other, yet the sign of them both was on the province of Chalaque. With their marching, they were surprised by such a violent storm that few would have left to relate their adventures, had not the trees bore it off from them. For it not only thundered and lightened, and if heaven and earth would have met, but also hailstones fell down as big as eggs. You hear that? Hailstones falling on the Spanish when they were in America, thunder and lightning, like heaven and hell was falling on them. All right, they're describing this, which beat down the boughs of trees in the pleasant valley of Shualu, or Gualu, or Walu, right? Gualu, Shualu, belonging to the kingdom of Kusa Chiki. They reflected 15 days and then marched through countries of Guasali or Guali or Guajali or Acostis and Cuza, where above 1,000 Indians, adorned with plumes of feathers and rich fur cloaks. All right, plumes and feathers and rich fur cloaks, you were furred out, came to meet and welcome them, and to desire them from the cacique to stay for all the winter. But Sotos, resolving to go to the haven, Chusi, refused the same. All right, so again, that's it. It's a lot of good drop in these books. Like the stories, if you just picture them,